Hey there. Um, okay, so today I went to go see Wakanda Forever, and wow, this is a great movie. I kind of saw it twice. Like I saw it once in like standard definition, and then I saw it again, and I think it's called like 4DX. It's really dope because like you sit in the chair, and the chairs they like move. They're all like, and there's like this spray water coming out of the chairs. There's like air and shit. It's really cool, and it's like such an action movie that I didn't even know 4DX was a thing. So it's like 3D and it's like a moving chair. So that's what like 4DX is. Definitely worth the $9. Damn, this movie was just so good though. It's like oh man, where can we start? Okay, so Shuri basically, the movie starts with Shuri realizing that T'Challa is like really, really sick, and so she tries to like use those like purple flowers to create some medicine that's going to heal him. And she's just like, and you know, she's already in the lab trying to like, she created the Black Panther suit. And so she's like, it's all good. I'm just gonna build, I'm gonna create a medicine that will save him. And she's like in the lab trying, constantly like monitoring his heart rate, but he doesn't make it. So then they have like a whole mourning ceremony. So it's like, you know, her and her mother now, and they're totally mourning the death of T'Challa. Now, man, so then I think we have to take a minute to like realize how hard that is for Shuri. And I think that the movie just does a really good job of like humanizing her at every aspect, because it's like, even in terms of the time frame, like after the initial loss, a whole year goes by in terms of the timeline, and she's still processing the remorse. She acknowledges quite a lot of anger that she feels about the loss. And really that she's not totally healed. And so like what her mother does on the anniversary of his passing, she like takes her to this water space where they both are just, you know, kind of like being solemn and just mourning the loss of her brother, who she truly cared about a lot. And so that's a very useful moment. And then all of a sudden this like water, hold on a second, I'm gonna finish my potato. Yikes. Sorry. Okay, so then this like water monster basically like comes up to where they're sitting, and he like starts to say stuff. He's like, I knew there was a land like this where, you know, it's like the air is so fresh and like you guys are so lucky. And he was basically saying like, because all this other stuff happens with him like later on in the movie, but in the beginning it's basically just like him introducing himself as being this person from a different like land and tribal group. And they also have this resource, I forgot the name of the resource. It's the main resource that Wakanda has. Oh my god, I forgot the name of it already, but he's like suited up in it or whatever. Sorry, I'm gonna put this back in the microwave. So he's like suited up in this like natural resource, and there was an assumption that that Wakanda is like the only land that has this resource. And so, I guess we'd have to rewind a bit. Okay, so before we're introduced to this character, the queen, played by Angela Bassett, I definitely need to do a better job, and I'll make another video where I'm explaining this in more depth, because I'm gonna do a write-up about it. But so the queen goes to like the United Nations. Basically, they're having an entire conversation about natural resources. Now, from the reviews that I saw about this, I feel like they were very like one-sided. Just kind of given the political landscape, I feel like this movie is actually trying to be like how can I say this? This movie is a snippet. It came out at the right time with the right message because many people for a very long time have been talking about the natural resources in Africa. Wakanda is, it's stated as a small country in Africa, but it just has like all of this particular like natural resource. And no other place on earth has the resource, and Wakanda is not willing to trade or share the resource with anyone else. Now the problem with this is that like now that other nations and territories realize that the resource exists, they want it because they realize like with this resource we could do so much. And of course like America as an entity is like it continues to be like this central player in the conversation, just because like one of the intelligence agents is like I guess Shuri has saved his life in the first movie, so now he has kind of an alliance with them, and he is like their sort of like inside voice in terms of like what's happening on the American front. And whenever there's like a problem, he's like right there being like, this is what's going down on our side, I just want to like let y'all know. And so he like also gets to kind of like know what's going on in Wakanda land, right? So okay, so then we can break down that situation and that character a bit later, but in the United Nations meeting, the other countries, specifically like France and some other like European country, really started to like voice their concerns. They're basically like, yeah, we don't feel like it's safe for Wakanda to have primary access to this natural resource that has the potential to cause like nuclear damage and it can do, it's basically too powerful, right? And so there's no way that we can be accepting of you having sole access to this natural resource. Now, basically, the queen gets up and she's like, the reason that we don't trade with you guys and we don't share the natural resource with you is because you've shown to be untrustworthy. She's basically like, I don't trust you. I feel like you will use that resource to cause harm to other places. Now, I guess it was like the night before, there had been like an invasion in one of their like in a Wakandan territory, in one of their like science centers or something. One of the European nations, their military army like broke in and tried to, I guess, like capture some of the resource. I don't know how they got it. They basically like broke in by brute force, right? And so then they stop them, they capture them, and they bring in the soldiers who tried to break into the UN meeting. And then the queen is basically like, this is a civil warning, but the next time that one of you guys tries to do this, there will be consequences. Now, it's kind of interesting because like in terms of like military power, even though Wakandans have this really powerful resource that has made the Black Panther suit, and like even in this film we see like Shuri making a bunch of other suits that the technology is incredible. Their military is kind of small, and then I don't really understand. There's the other guy, I forgot his name, but he's like the Jacobi leaders. They are like this affiliate country. They're like in Wakanda, but they're not like a part of the same tribe as like T'Challa and Shuri. Like they're Wakandans, but they're not like royal blood. That's the way that I took that. And so Shuri it lives in like the capital city, and I think like the Jacobians live in like kind of a proximal city, but it's all Wakanda, so the same country but like different cities in different cities anyway. So but he had to like step in with his whole army to even like fight the main battles in this war, and it wasn't really clear that there was some kind of strong game plan to win the war. And for all of the like technological advancements that the Black Panther has in terms of like the suit and all of the like brute force weapons and guns and shit. Like none of the other army soldiers have that. So like every single time there's a war, so many of them die because they just use those spears, and then they use like the rhinos, and like they're not that strong. So they really need to do a better job of like suiting up their military. And I feel like with all of the technological advancements that Shuri, basically the way that Shuri has been able to use like robotics and engineering and bioengineering to like manufacture suits to like accompany the sort of like human potential in terms of like military power, right, that she has. I don't understand why she's not using that to make like suits that would benefit all of the other warriors too, because like they keep dying. Like she lost a lot of people on her side. So there's so many other things that happen in the movie. So there's this like new character who turns out to be a villain, basically because he feels like, so there's another territory, and this new territory also has the name, I keep forgetting the name of the natural resource. Let's just actually look this up. So okay, so vibranium is the name of the natural resource, and it turns out that this new character, he's like an underwater hybrid. He's not like a mermaid, but kind of. So his people were basically like Native Americans. That's kind of the idea here. So they were Native Americans. They were the original people on the land. And then like he literally says this, like the Spaniards came in and they brought smallpox and all these other diseases, and so my people were dying. And so he finds this like little blue root or whatever, or somebody, I don't think it was him, it was some other dude in the tribe found a blue root, and then he makes this little serum or whatever, and then everybody eats the blue root, and they all like turn into kind of like these mermaids. Are they mermaids? I don't know. Yeah, they're kind of like mermaids, except they don't have tails. They've got these like flying, I don't know how to put it. They only live underwater, except for him, because when this happened, he was still a baby in the womb. So he's like half human and half of this like water creature sort of thing. It's mad interesting. So basically he's the leader of this. He's like the king of these like underwater people. So they literally had to like leave their land and migrate into the ocean and then build a whole community like way underwater. But it just so happens that the place that they chose underwater has this like a whole bunch of vibranium there. And the problem is like in the space that he found, like his people they can't live on above the ground anymore. They can't live on land because they aren't human anymore, right? Because most of them got wiped out from the smallpox and whatever other diseases that the Spaniards brought, but the ones who ate the purple plant, they can only live underwater now. So basically he's saying like, if people come, like if Americans come, if they know that we exist, first of all, and then they know that we have the vibranium, they will basically wipe us out and then take the vibranium. Now they're not actually like using the vibranium for anything, so it's not a natural resource that's being used in terms of capitalism. But the reason that the American CIA agent is important here is because America had basically been creating these. Okay, so let's go back for a second. So then we introduce like a new character here, and the new character is this like MIT student. She's just like an undergrad student. She's like hella young. I think she's like a sophomore or something. But in her mechanical engineering class, like she ends up building this like vibranium detector that can find vibranium through metal, through rocks, underwater. It's like a vibranium detector. So then the CIA takes her machine, So I think what she was like working in a group or something to build this machine, but it was all her like IP, like her intellectual property. And so she there was a student in the group that she was working with, and like he submitted the project. So the CIA got wind of the project, and then they like literally take this machine and put it in the ocean to go like find vibranium. And that's how they actually come across some vibranium. And they kind of start to get wind of like, oh my God, there's another source of vibranium in the ocean somewhere, but we don't know where it is, because the blue people with that mermaid dude, I think his name is Namora. So with Nomura and his blue people, he like moves the machine somewhere else so that they don't get track of it like right at that second. So there's all these things happening, right? So now like the CIA knows that there's this like MIT student who can build a vibranium finder, and then they actually have her vibranium finder. And then now there's Shuri, who also knows that there's this like student at MIT who knows how to build a vibranium finder. And she's like, oh shit, we better go like get this student, and like, because we don't want anybody else really to have vibranium, because they understand like how much of a problem that could be. And then the blue people don't want anybody to find vibranium, because they realize that if they find their vibranium, they'll lose their only home. And he, especially like Nomura, is most worried about colonialism, basically. I guess it would be like underwater colonialism and ethnic cleansing, basically. Like it seems like he really feels like everyone from every group is like out to get his group. And to me, that's very strange, and I think something to be very wary of in this story. But also just in terms of like cultural groups, like I really feel like tribalism was like at place in this story a lot, because like, first of all, Wakanda has its own country on its own continent that doesn't really, of human land people who live on land and have their own source of vibranium. So I don't understand why Namora and the blue people would give a shit about Wakanda in the first place. Like, so I'm not really seeing a world where they would actually have to be enemies, because they just don't, like Wakanda already has vibranium. So the only issue that they're having right now is this like MIT student, because Nomura wants to kill the MIT student because of her intellectual property, basically. So because she knows how to make a vibranium finder, they don't want the vibranium finder to be found, to be recreated. So they think by killing her, it's going to stop the vibranium finder IP. Now, the problem with this whole like theory is, first of all, the CIA already got the machine and put it underwater and then tracked down the vibranium. If it's already gotten that far, that means the IP's already out, right? Like Shuri literally took the machine into her lab and then rebuilt the whole machine. So if Shuri could do that, America and any other country that gets the machine can do that too. So it's just basically a matter of time before everyone at the UN, besides like the queen, who also she dies in this movie, which is very sad, but like, and it's Namora who kills her. Like Namora drowns her out. Like Namora wages war on Wakanda. And I've got to say, like, to me, Shuri should have killed Namora. He can't live after he wages war on your country. He killed so many of their soldiers. I think that Jacobian leader made a really great point where he was like, I don't think you should go to war with Namora and the blue people, because if you kill Namora, which is kind of what Shuri wanted to do, and she definitely had the opportunity to do so, if she does that, all those, because there's hella blue people. Like, yes, Namora is the leader, but those blue people are actually very, very strong. And their army was pretty lit. Like, they were actually winning the war against Wakanda. Like, there was only like 20 Wakandan soldiers left when Shuri ends up coming back and getting Namora to like call the shit off. But like, if he wouldn't have come back and done that, they would have won the war, and they probably would have just declared another leader, which I feel like they're going to do anyway, because I feel like they probably feel betrayed by Namora. But they're really strong. The problem that I'm having though is like Wakanda and Shuri aren't their enemy. The real enemy of the blue first. Okay, this is where shit gets complicated because like Shuri knows that these blue people exist, but the American military and CIA don't. So they don't even know that Namora is alive because Shuri made kind of a pact with him that she wouldn't tell them. But kind of in the end of the movie, the CIA agent who was like the info link, he gets busted because his like ex-wife had like planted a bug the whole time. And so he's like off to prison, but then the Wakandans like save him. So that's sort of interesting, but I feel like now the American intelligence agents and really all of the UN are on a hunt for vibranium that they do know exists in the ocean. And so, but they also know that Wakanda has vibranium, right? Like I don't really know how to, I don't know what to say, or like maybe because like if you think about it, the United States and the UN and France and everything, they don't really have a need for vibranium. Like nobody's making the case that like without vibranium we won't be alive, and they can't like force Wakanda to give them vibranium if they don't want to. This is kind of like the whole issue with like the developing world, right? Like Britain and Europe have colonized Africa for natural resources for a very long time. But it's kind of like when you have Africa standing up and fighting back and European nations committing crimes against humanity for like colonialism, it's not really acceptable to commit genocide anymore in 2022. So I feel like that's kind of the pressing issue in the movie, which is not technically like, well, I think it is kind of addressed with the Queen, but like this is what Shuri is going to combat in the next film, which I feel like it comes out in like 2 years, which is a long fucking time. But anyway, so man, like oh gosh, I'm just confused because like Namora and the blue people are fighting a losing battle. Like to me, in my opinion, Shuri should have she should have just like went to the United, like after Namora killed, he like literally drowned out Shuri's mother. At that point, I feel like it was Shuri's obligation to go to the UN and be like, yo, here's Namora and these blue people who have a whole bunch of vibranium, and they live, because like all over the American news, it's like, Queen blah 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 is dead. Queen blah 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 is dead. Our sources have told us Queen blah 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 is dead, and she really is dead. Like Shuri, bro, you like lost your whole mom, and like hella people died. Like they literally like invaded your whole ass country, killed everyone, and they were like, fuck you. Like, what are you protecting them for? They have literally declared themselves an enemy. And then Shuri's like, well, I'm gonna, like, she could have killed Namora, so she did him a favor by sparing his life. But I don't think you can go so far as to try to spare his nation. I'm just not seeing it. Like, especially, like, the way that war happened, it was just so dirty and shady. Like, there's no way that's not going to hit the, like, world press. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone's going to know that these, like, blue weirdos exist and they're harboring natural resources, the specific natural resource that everybody wants. And they literally had that stupid-ass tracker that, like, if the college student can make a tracker and it actually, like, tracked down a whole blue village and caused all this drama, like, I feel like the intelligence agents, right, above ground can kind of catch on to what the fuck is happening. So I don't know. I honestly feel like the blue people in Namora are on their way out. There's no way that they can survive this, in my opinion. It's just, killing the Queen was the last straw. Invading Wakanda was like suicide. Like, it just didn't make any sense because, like, literally, like, the whole war, like, so then Namora tries to make this argument. He's like, yeah, well, Wakandans don't have any allies on the human land, so the humans will wage war on Wakanda, and at that point Wakanda will have to come to us. That's kind of true until, like, here's the thing, like, Wakanda at this point exists as a real place in the world that the United Nations is aware of, and the queen has been showing up to these like meetings and shit, so like they know she exists. They don't know that Namora and his whole like village of vibranium exists. So all Shuri has to do is just be like, bro, yeah, Namora and his village of vibranium is literally right here. You could just go take it. Then war is going to wage with the blue people and Namora and everyone on land in the UN who wants the vibranium. But I guess I could kind of see where like Shuri would want to build like an allyship with Namora. I just don't feel like it's a useful allyship. Maybe it is. Maybe right now it's kind of like a temporary piece, but the only problem is like, and maybe Shuri's just not aware of this because so much shit hit her at once. Like so many members of her family died at one time and all this shit just keeps happening. She doesn't even have time to be like a diplomat yet, but I feel like she's going to have to put like her diplomatic slippers on and realize that like, yo, everybody in the European Union is coming for her vibranium. And they don't really give a shit about Wakanda and its like spears and rhinos. They're going to take the vibranium. And Shuri's military presence is so weak that like they're going to lose. And then Namora doesn't. I guess it could kind of make sense for Shuri to have an allyship with Namora because Namora's people can never take Wakandan land because they can't actually live above the ground. So like they have to live in water. So it's like, okay, in that sense, maybe it makes sense to have this allyship. But it's so clear, like, the humans of the West will never stop until they get the vibranium that they desire. So it's going to be Namora's vibranium or Shuri's vibranium, but some vibranium will be had.